It's lights out and away we go!
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the GTUK F1 podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, David.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, I'm not going to try and say it in Chinese because I don't stand a cat in hell's chance.
No, I wouldn't either.
No, without offending somebody.
And more than likely, yeah.
So, Chinese Grand Prix, first sprint race of the year. And actually a very good weekend of motorsport. I thought I really enjoyed this weekend.
It was an unusual weekend. That's all I'm going to say on this one. I mean, obviously, I saw basically probably all of the weekend. Some of it wasn't live, some of it was live.
I missed FP1. I didn't see that, but I managed to catch everything else.
And
This was good.
I mean, yeah, in obviously practice one, the Mercedes didn't look like they had a chance. Neither did McLaren at one point, but
well, everyone was hailing Lance Stroll as the winner of FP1, weren't they?
yeah.
It was going to be his weekend, but we'll come on to that later.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the Red Bulls didn't seem very on top form like normal, even in practice. But I suppose the weather didn't actually help, because that's why the results are so mixed, even in practice, because of the weather.
Yeah.
And, you know, because you've got the likes of the two Hasses, you know, 5th and 6th. That's not normal. That would be Ferrari. But for some reason, the stronger powered cars, i.e. the Mercedes, the McLarens, the Ferraris, even the Aston Martin, even Alonso struggled in practice.
Yeah. I mean, you would think it was very much a power circuit, wouldn't you, with that long back straight?
Yeah.
I know the middle section is very technical, very twisty, but you've like I say, you've got that solid mile of full throttle.
Yeah, and you think that would help. And
so you think horsepower would be a critical.
Well, yeah,
a critical one.
I mean, you know, we had obviously some shenanigans going on in FP1 with a track fire.
As I say, yeah, we had nature getting involved when the course set on fire twice.
Yeah, because it did later. Was it qualifying?
It was during spring quali, wasn't it? It did it during spring quali as well.
Was it practice or was it sprint quali and quali?
It did it once during. I'm sure it did it once during practice. I saw it. As I said, I didn't see practice. I just saw Facebook posts. And it did it once, but then it did it during the sprint quali. I didn't watch the sprint quali live. I watched it when I finished work that day.
Yeah, it was the sprint quali it did in. But yeah, Oscar looked on good form in practice. Lando didn't. Now I'll come on to Lando. You know, Alpine looked strong in practice.
I mean, I've seen a 7th and a last, but
yeah.
Obviously, and once again, we say this every time: never take practice as gospel.
No, you can't.
Because you don't know what, especially on the weekend when there's only one practice session.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the team. Some teams will prioritise getting the qualifying right, will prioritise low fuel, low power. Some teams will choose to run the cars fat with fuel and figure out how the car's going to behave when it's heavy.
Yeah, so basically race pace.
I could imagine the likes of Mercedes, McLaren, even Fernando, probably running heavy cars.
Yeah, they were.
Because they'd want to know. Someone like Fernando he knows the race is more important, and he knows he can race well. So as long as the quality isn't a total disaster,
Yeah. And I think that's
so
what Ferrari were doing as well.
yeah, I'm looking at the cars at the bottom, like the Mercs, Lando. I could easily see them running heavy cars, whereas the likes of the Hasses maybe were going more. We know the Haas is a great qualifying car, and we know it's just probably an average race car.
Yeah.
It can hold position. It's not so good at going forward at the moment.
At the moment. I mean, see, it was kind of weird because you can tell the RB, they were on split strategy. Not
Well, that's your other option. When you've got two cars, as long as you've got the confidence, for want of a better word, in both your drivers, do one on each and you'll get some data. But obviously, because the drivers all drive in different ways,
yeah.
it's not 100%.
Yeah, because that's what makes, like I said, that's what makes me think with obviously Yuki being a bit lower. I don't think Yuki was going for quali run. I think he was more concentrating on his race.
Yeah, he could also be, say, some drivers, it could be the teams. You don't know where the teams are from, but say, especially in a weekend where there's only one practice session, because you've then got to condense what you'd normally do across 3 hours into 1 hour.
Well, yeah.
And at that point, you've got to make sacrifices.
It's not just that; it's the fact that they've got to do all this. They've got to make sure the setup is right because,
or as near to right as they can.
Well, yeah, because once that practice session's over,
it wasn't though. No, they've changed those rules, haven't they? They did not go into parc fermé conditions until after the sprint. Was it after the sprint race? I think.
Was it?
I'm sure. I remember him. I remember hearing Ted talking about it.
I thought they always go parc fermé.
Usually it was, but don't forget that created this really weird position last year, where there was a practice session once the cars were in parc fermé.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure I remember hearing Ted talk about it. I'm sorry, I didn't realise this would be something we'd end up discussing, so I didn't have the information on hand.
Yeah, I don't have the...
I'm going through the F1.
Yeah, because I don't remember the... It's one of them where you think that it didn't make sense. Why did they... back last season, why did they go into parc fermé? But then...
Right, this is off the ScuderiaFans.com, so...
Right.
F1 sprint race opportunity provided by parc fermé rules on various main target. The new format allows for correcting inaccurate setups. Let me just find a bit that I can... New sprint includes a free practice on Friday morning, followed by sprint shootout qualifying. New parc fermé discipline points.
We'll get there in a minute.
Sorry, I'm trying to get through. There will be two types of parc fermé, one from the shootout to the mini race, and another that will start from qualifying to the Sunday race. During the time between, teams can make changes to setup. Right. So, from free practice 1 to the end of the sprint race, they couldn't make changes. But they were then allowed to make changes before the start of the qualifying for the Sunday race. If I'm reading that correctly.
Well, that can't be correct then.
Why?
Because Logan Sargent had to start. Was it Logan Sargent? Who started from the pit lane? Yeah.
I don't think anybody
There you
did,
go.
did it?
Sargent required to start from pit lane after cars were modified while under parc fermé condition.
Yeah, but that might have been between quali and the race. that might have been. I'm going on what I'm reading there. Like I'd heard something that the rules had changed.
Well, if that's the case, we'll go off the rule set then. So, sprint qualifying to the sprint is under Parc Fermé. Yeah?
But then it opens up.
It opens up until qualifying. Once they cross the line, they're qualifying, they are Parc Fermé till the end of the race. Well, technically, they're still in Parc Fermé at the end of the race, which is kind of a bit weird. When does Parc Fermé release after a race then? Because they're still in Parc Fermé
until the FIA release the cars. Which I think is... Because does this not also fall under that set of rules that saw so many cars fail ride height checks last year?
Yeah.
The cars are under Parc Fermé till the FIA basically have decided they've had enough of checking them. Now, we had this discussion, which race was it where 3 cars failed bloody ride height? It was Kota, was it? I can't remember exactly which one it was, but...
Kota last year.
And I think they discussed at the time, it's not practical to test all 20 cars. Or else to be there for another 4 bloody hours.
Yeah.
So they pick a selection of cars and check them. But I think until all those cars have been checked, and until the FIA are happy that... Because I guess if you checked a load and there was something busy wrong, you then might check a couple more.
Yeah.
But once they've done that, the cars are then probably released to the teams. Who, let's be honest, especially when you got head-to-heads, are going to get them in trucks and get them off the bloody circuit.
Well, when you've got the double headers, yeah.
Don't we have like 4 races in 5 weeks coming up at some point this year, or something nuts like that? We have like a triple header, then a week break, then another race, or something like that.
Let me go.
I'm sure.
Full schedule.
That's not something we ever need to check now, really, is it?
No. Well, obviously we've got Miami, a break.
Yeah.
17 to 19th. Well, we will get there in a minute, guys. We're just...
I'm sure... Or was this next year? When it was one of us I remember hearing about. It was like four races in a 5-week period or something like that.
Could be next year.
Could be 25, yeah.
Not entirely sure. Because obviously you've got 17... Well, no, because then... Yeah, you've got a break between. So you've got, obviously, Italy, Monaco, break, Canada.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now myself. It must be...
I don't know, because you've got...
We've still got that long break in August.
Yeah, but you got Spain. Then the week after is... Oh no, we have a triple header coming up.
Yeah,
Spain,
21st to 23rd.
Austria,
28th, 30th, 5th to 7th.
and Great Britain.
And then there's only a week gap after that.
And then we're in...
Hungary. So yeah, I'm right.
And then...
It's 4 races in a 5-week period.
And then we have Belgium.
And then it's the week after Belgium, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's 5 races in 6 weeks.
Jesus Christ. That's going to be... Well, we better be on top then, boy. Top form.
I tell you what, I bet Williams are shitting themselves.
I bet they are.
Somebody stuffs the car at Spain. They might not make it off the track.
Is Spain changing next year, or is Spain 2026 to change?
Top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
Because Madrid...
2026 to 2035.
Ah.
So it's not till next year after next.
So we've got it for 1 more year.
Yep.
Next year. Next year's calendar's a bit crazy. But it's...
Well, that's 5 races in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
Let's hope. Let's hope Sargent manages to not bin it much, because I think Williams will be in trouble this year. if that's the case, I think Williams will be in real
I just
trouble.
wouldn't realize the guy Albon was as bad lately. Although I will say, Albon's helmet, flipping amazing.
What, the Panda? Absolutely.
Every time it cut to his onboard view, I couldn't help but laugh.
I want his helmet.
I need that as a soundbite, ladies and gentlemen.
What? I want his helmet.
That's going on the soundboard.
Damn it. And if you're still doing what I think you're doing, you can easily find that now.
Oh yeah, I know I can.
Oh, you bastard. Okay, we're sidetracked. No, but
Sprint quali we were on.
we hadn't
just
even
got-
started that. We were just getting there.
Us sidetracked never.
Oh, and you know,
That's about 15 minutes just from personal record.
and it's just. Now, yeah, sprint qualifying.
Sprint qualifying. The weather decided to play a part.
It did.
At least he put the fires out.
Yeah. And I mean, my fever, like I said, me and Dave were quickly talking before we started off. My theory behind it was I'd heard a rumor that it was supposed to be swamp gas because the circuit is built on swampland, which is kind of debunked because swamp gas would be methane and
Will be a lot more dangerous than just a little bit of a grass fire.
yeah. So the whole swamp gas rumors kind of a bit defunct on that. Now, the other one I'd heard, but I'm probably going to go with it more, is that I'd heard that there was chemicals being used to make the grass look greener. Now, they had, like David had said, they'd recently done the track,
They tar sprayed the circuit handy, from what I understand.
which made it
So
really
the circuit
slippery.
looks tidy. But tar spray, mate. They use that in this country. It's not a brilliant thing.
Ew.
It's not terrible, but it's not. And it's papering over cracks. It's tar spraying.
Yeah.
If you spray hot bitumen down, throw stones on it, roll over it, call it a new surface.
Yeah. So that was causing issues, but there was talk of them. They'd also sprayed the grass to make
Painted it green.
the grass look greener. They'd use some sort of chemicals on the grass. Now this is
Obviously slightly flammable chemicals.
yeah, but it just seems weird how it was in the same place twice.
Was it? I didn't actually notice that, but was it in the exact same place?
It was the both of the fires were in the exact same bit. Now,
Unless there was, so something there. I don't know. So I still go with you shouldn't buy your grass off Temu. But
yeah. But it just was odd. I mean,
something I've never seen before.
no,
I
because
believe you got we've probably had like fires outside circuits in the middle of summer in places and stuff, or cars setting things on fire when they crash into it and blow up. But I don't think we've ever had a circuit just because. Obviously, we know F1 cars produce sparks. That's nothing new.
it's because of the
Titanium skid blocks.
the titanium skid block underneath.
But I've never watched them set. I've never seen them set fire to the scenery with it before.
No, but they did.
Yeah.
And it's,
But anyway, go on, sorry.
I'm just trying to think where the red flag was. This is why I should have taken notes, but hey ho. Was there?
There was a red flag in sprint quali when Sainz binned it.
Yeah, that was it.
Poor Carlos dipped a wheel on the gravel coming out the last corner.
Well,
Managed to avoid any major damage, which ripped his front wing off, but avoided ripping a wheel off it, which was actually quite impressive in the situation.
another point note on that. Well, Aston Martin launched a protest. as well. Because they got the car.
Because he caused the red flag but was allowed to re-enter the session.
Yeah. Because
I actually don't disagree with them. If you cause a red flag, to me, you should be out. I'm actually not going to argue with that.
But the problem is the sporting article, the actual article, which I'm not going to read because I don't have the sporting regs anymore at the minute. I need to go and find them again. I did see a post from Crofty.
Yeah.
He'd put out the results like he normally does. And because of the wording of the article, because of the sporting reg, that's why science was allowed to continue.
Well, the old golden rule was always, as long as if you get any outside assistance, you're out.
Because he didn't have any outside assistance,
he was allowed to rejoin, which I'm not disagreeing with that.
To rejoin.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
maybe
it wasn't. Was it not Bottas and his? Where the hell was Bottas caused a red flag because his car got stuck in gear?
No, he caused a red flag. That was during the race. He caused a safety car.
Yeah, wrong thing.
And a VSC, which I know is something you want to discuss later.
But yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, it was a very, it was kind of weird because it was a very, very, very quick red flag.
Yeah. Well, to me, the red flag was almost a little bit overkill.
Yeah, but
I mean, the car wasn't really on like a firing line as such. It wasn't on the outside of a corner.
It wasn't on the outside of the corner, but it was on the It was on the main straight.
Yeah, I know. I get that.
That's why they probably chucked it because you got to think.
But that actually did Ferrari probably the biggest favour because it meant they got the car back.
Got the car back, fixed it.
So luckily there certainly wasn't any really bad damage.
Well, it just needed a new front wing.
Which was lucky because he went into the barrier sideways. He did really well not to bend a suspension arm or anything.
Yeah.
You know, but fair enough, got away with it, put a front wing on it. He still went on to qualify well into the top 10.
Top 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you disagree with it, but
actually, now you've explained it the way you have, I'm maybe a bit more middle ground, but it's a difficult one.
If the marshals had have touched the car,
he'd be out.
He'd be out.
If he'd have left the car for any reason, he'd have been out.
Yeah, if he'd have got out of the car.
That's what got Russell back in Silverstone, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because he got out of the car. Wanted to try and get it back to the grid to get back to the pits to rejoin.
Yeah,
but was told allowed. Because he got out of the car, he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah.
I suppose if neither of those rules have been broken, then yeah, technically the car is allowed to.
Yeah, because he technically hadn't broken any rules. Yes, he was. Okay, there's the timing rule as well. That's what Aston Martin were complaining about. There was a timing rule that if a car is, it's supposed to be if a car is stationary 30 seconds or something like that, for 30 seconds, and doesn't get going again,
it's deemed to already be out.
It's deemed. Right.
I suppose it's the same as how the game goes you if you stay still for too long.
I am going to have a look at Crofty's, what the stewards deemed here, because I don't
Where are you looking at that?
On Twitter. On Crofty's thing. So So basically, Aston Martin had lodged the protest against Sainz. Aston Martin claimed that the above car was in breach of Article 39.6 of the 2024 sporting rigs.
Yeah, I've got it in front of me as well. So.
Yeah, but other people won't. Clearly stopped on track, causing a red flag, which in turn caused the qualifying to be stopped. The protest, in writing together with a protest fee of €2,000 was paid by Aston Martin within the time contemplated by the IAA International Sporting Code, which I've never read. So obviously, see, they say that so they underline these as facts. So the following facts are undisputed. That obviously he lost control, came to a halt after hitting the wall at the straight. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then it gives the time, like 15, 33, and 5 seconds, which is local time it's China's local time. He was able to restart without any assistance and make its way back to the pits. Meanwhile, race control issued a red flag for the race.
Now that making it back to the pits is only, what is it, a minute and 17 seconds later if the timings read as I think they do?
Yeah, something like that. I'm very surprised.
It's about a minute and 17 seconds.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the red flag was issued 11 seconds after.
Which was very quick.
Yeah.
So, they say this is the issue that Aston Martin had on the next thing here.
Yeah.
That this is what the Article 39.6 states. Sorry, guys. This like we said, this is probably going to be a long podcast because we do have stuff to discuss. Any driver whose car stops on the track during qualifying session will not be permitted to take any further part in that session. Right? The breach that is alleged that car 55 stopped on the track during qualifying session and therefore should not have been permitted to take any further part. So, basically, that's the hearing. So the part of the hearing, I'm not going to read 7 because 7's not. So what they basically said, at our request, the FIA officials who were in race control were present. In addition, somebody.
The director of the FIA was single seat director had requested to be present, but he did not attend.
Yeah.
I'm reading that.
And then the decision basically said we'd heard Aston Martin's. We heard Aston. Wow, really? Who the fuck writes these? Because
they're taking in shorthand note form, aren't they?
We know.
They're also, let's be honest, they're only meant to be read by people who were probably other team bosses and that. So
yeah, no.
They're written anyway. Most people who read this will understand. I mean, it makes sense what he says. It's just it might also be somebody who English isn't their first language. Let's be honest here.
Maybe not.
Because I know what you're saying. It's not written what we would class as clear, but it's understandable.
So the decision of Part A, it's clear that the plain language of Art 39, so it's Article 39.6, suggests that so long as the car stops on track during the qualifying session, that car should not be permitted to take any further part in the session. However, it was not clear from the example cited by a number of team managers present and the FIA that this was not how the rule was applied by the teams and the FIA in the past. So basically, we're having wars over their own regs again.
Which, let's finish.
These are only working documents.
I know you're not going to like this, but you can never write a set of rule books that are going to cover every single possible eventuality.
Oh, we know this.
Somebody will always find something you didn't think of.
Well, we've seen it happen.
Yeah, I mean, in general, there will always, no matter how carefully and minutely you write a set of rules, somebody will manage to find something you didn't think of. It always happens. I mean, it goes on to say about a reasonable length of time, and it says, and I'm quoting here, the teams themselves said they had previously attempted to agree what they consider to be a reasonable length of time
Where was
before a
that?
car would be considered stopped. That's 9C.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they were not able to come to final agreement on maximum time allowed. The FIA's view is the crucial part is the car does not receive any outside assistance.
Yeah.
Then he goes on to say there have been other examples in the past where cars have stopped on track, been allowed to go again.
Yes, but they're saying that the typical time is supposed to be around 30 seconds, though that varied depending on circumstance.
But as I said, that there's nothing in writing saying that 30 seconds is a thing. That's not in the rules.
No.
Yeah, the bit I read out says they've tried to agree a time,
Yeah.
and they've never been able to come to a final agreement. So, in theory, I could back a car up for half an hour and claim it's been reasonable time.
Mm.
The rules don't say I can't.
No. But it's like the outside assistance is the main thing that they look at on that. So it was a minute and 17 seconds he was stationary for.
This is what I said, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the reason why he was stationary for that long is because obviously they had to restart the car. When the impact will have happened, he will have been still in gear.
Yeah, they've had to get the car ready to go again, which takes time because without the mechanics there, they can't just speed through it.
No, but that would then be classed as outside assistance. Then the car would not have been able to take part again. Which then Ferrari would have been fined for allowing mechanics onto the track.
Mm.
So the way that the cars do it is the Formula 1 cars are fitted with an MG UK.
Yeah.
Which
the battery system, the hybrid battery system.
Yeah, which is what allows them to stop at the end of the pit lane and restart and basically fire the engine up themselves without the mechanics having to start it.
Which has been a big change because in years gone by they used to have to start them through the gearbox. It's been a big change since we went to these electric assistants that they can actually start the cars.
Yeah, but
from the car.
Yeah,
it's something you could never do.
No, but they still, when they're on the grid, the mechanics still fire it up.
Yeah, because you want the battery to be fully charged to start the race.
Yeah. So.
But the point I'm making is, you go back before the hybrid systems.
Oh yeah.
You couldn't start an F1. You couldn't start an F1 car once it was out of the pit lane.
No.
Or off the grid, because it literally used to be basically a starter motor went into the back of the gearbox
and
turned the whole thing.
Yeah.
But now, as you say, and the systems, I mean, is it not the Mercs drop to something like 3 cylinders when they're idling or something like, really weird like that? I think it was the Merc, their engine can literally turn off 1 or 2 cylinders when it's idling.
No idea.
In order to not use fuel, not produce as much heat.
Yeah. I mean, engines are getting clever. And so, basically, they're saying here, absent clear guidance in the regulations or an agreed established practice of when too long was too long, we considered that.
There's a great one, I don't know if you've got.
That this was a discretion best left to race control. What are you on about H?
I'm on about K.
Hang on. I'll have a look at that now. Yeah, so they'd looked at examples in Canada and Monaco and in Baku as well. But
K and I, K and L, sorry, they just read lovely to me.
So, K. We were also shown minutes of the Formula 1 Commission meeting held in Spa on 28th of July, where Article 39.6 was specifically discussed. The conclusion reached at the meeting appeared to be, among other things, that it was agreed to add outside assistance to 39.6. Okay.
And then the next one below.
We were informed that the above change to 39.6 was not in fact made. So we did not rely on these minutes beyond noting that there appeared to be an agreement, at least among those attending that meeting on that day, that was consistent with the approach that race control was adopting.
So basically, they held a meeting about this rule, agreed to change this rule,
and didn't.
And then never really did it.
I am stupid. I am stupid.
Yeah, that sounds about right for the FIA right now.
Guys, we need to look at this. We're going to change it. Did somebody say something?
Yeah, because that's the way it feels with that rule. So, but anyways, yeah, that's why Sainz was allowed to rejoin. And to be honest, even though he just hit the wall, he was still on it. It hadn't phased him.
He's driving probably the best he's driven in all the time. And he's been a well-rated, well-respected F1 driver for a few years now, but this year, Ferrari kicking him out has lit a fire under him.
Yeah. Well, look at Perez when Perez didn't have a drive.
Yeah, it's really sort of pushing him, which I'm not enough. I'm enjoying watching.
Yeah.
As I say, we'll come on to something about that during the sprint race.
But you know, sprint qualifying was one, and I'm going to say it, was one of the fucking weirdest things I have ever watched during, even when they tried the old format of sprint, like the sprint qualifying. This one took the biscuit. And I think,
there are still changes I would make to this format.
No,
I must admit, I've discussed them in the past.
But I think you may know what I'm about to say, and it's an FIA rant, still, but a good one.
Listen, an FIA rant? Well, that's never happened before.
Okay, so obviously the Red Bulls were struggling. Max was struggling. It looked like Bambi on bastard ice. No, it really did.
It did, didn't it? It was good fun.
And it was like, wow, you know. Then Lando just goes around, pounds in this incredible lap, and then it gets taken away from him. It was like, gutted. Hamilton goes along, sets pole. Okay, fair enough. Next minute, Lando's time reappeared on screen.
Well, and the game was up on the screen saying it was reinstated.
How sick must you have been if you were Hamilton? Or in fact, Toto.
Yeah, but the thing is, and
the FIA fucked up. Again.
Yes and no.
They did.
Yes and no, because it's not an easy one, because Lando ran wide into the last corner on the lap before that lap.
Yeah.
Wide enough that invalidated the lap he was on. Now, you'll have seen it in the game.
Yeah, ideally.
If you're too close to the end of the lap and you've run a racing line incident, it invalidates your next lap.
Yeah.
Because the argument is, if you can somehow take the last corner in a way that gives you a better exit, it could give you an advantage into the next lap.
But here's where the FIA fucked up. This is where they made the mistake. This is why he got it reinstated. The lap before, so not the lap that got reinstated, not the lap before it, but the lap before that. Please try and follow, everybody, because it's confusing. That he got track limits on the lap before.
Right.
So the first lap he got track limits on. Technically invalidated his second lap. Yeah?
Were the track limits at the last corner though, or were they early on in the lap?
Earlier on.
So that no, that's where you're mistaking it. Track limits track limits should only invalidate the next lap if they happen close enough to the end of the lap.
No, not according to the...
No. The rules do not work that way.
If we're going off the rules that we know, you go off track limits.
If you go off in turn 1, it won't invalidate the following lap.
Okay.
Because it has no bearing. The reason it is because it was the last turn, which runs directly onto the start-finish line, which runs directly onto your next lap. If you run off 4 corners beforehand, that does not have a direct impact on your next lap, because by the time you get to the start line, you've gone through 2 or 3 other braking zones, acceleration zones. Your car should have leveled back out. The reason it got reinstated was because, and I don't actually fully know whether McLaren argued this or whether the FIA came back to it themselves. I've not got that bit clear. But basically, because the outside of that turn was gravel, the argument was, well, there's no way you can be faster to run across a gravel trap. No way on this planet can a gravel trap ever be faster than tarmac. Unless you're a rally driver. Which ironically Carlos Sainz's father was, but let's not go down that direction. But so no, I slightly disagree with you there. I don't think it's for the reasons you think. I think it's more to do with they successfully argued that it wasn't an advantage going wide of the last turn, because it wasn't. Whereas if you did it at, say, somewhere like Singapore, you've got that massive tarmac runoff.
On most corners of the track, exceeding limits will result in deletion of that lap on most corners. However, if a driver commits the violation on the final corner onto the pit straight, the next lap time will be also deleted.
So that's saying exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this earlier one you're talking about, I must admit I didn't know this, but must have happened earlier in the lap.
It did, but he still got it deleted. He still lost his time.
Yeah, he lost it, but he didn't lose the time for the next lap. He lost the time for the lap he was on, which is correct.
Yeah.
For the running wide onto the last lap, he'll have lost the time for the lap he was on. But the argument was that did not give him an advantage onto the lap that in the end set him pole.
No, because he went, like we say, he touched the gravel.
It was a gravel trap. Like I said, I'm trying to think of circuits off the top of my head. Singapore has that massive tarmac runoff area.
Yeah.
Now, in theory, you could slightly square off that last corner, run yourself way off the track, and give yourself a straighter fire down the start-finish straight. There will be better examples out there. In fact, Austria.
Bahrain.
Austria, there's a good one. Run it wide at Austria, not far enough onto the grass, but give yourself a better lineup for that straight, which I've done against Alan before today.
Yeah, we know.
But you could, in theory, do that in qualifying and give yourself a better run into turn 1 because you've done it.
Yeah.
So on this one, the point of view I have is obviously the same as the FIA.
But it was just so weird to watch.
Oh yeah. I mean, the Hamilton fans were already chomping at the bit, I bet, because having Rosberg in commentary was great.
Oh yeah.
But then for that to happen to their beloved...
Oh.
It's a good job Alan isn't joining us tonight, or we might have needed a swear filter.
Honestly, if it Toto's chilled out, or I was expecting a pair of headphones to go bye-bye.
No, and the funny thing was, after qualifying, they spoke to Toto. And I sat there, and I said, I think I was telling him, and I went, if he's got any brains, he'll keep his mouth shut. Because you never know when that rule might go in your favour.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is kick off about it and then have it go your way later and have to stand back and watch it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like the old 107% rule? I don't think a car's ever been refused because every team knows. Don't refuse it because you never know when it might be you who's find yourself stuck in that position.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he sort of did he sort of gave a very political answer, which I thought that's right. That's because yeah, don't complain about it, don't kick off about it,
Hmm.
because it'll only hurt you later.
Yeah.
Now, as it stood, it didn't make much of a difference anyway because Hamilton still ended up getting the jump at the start. We're ready to move on to the sprint now.
Yeah.
Anything more of a sprint qualifier we need to talk about? The grid, Albon didn't exactly have a great result, not what we were expecting from him, but other than that, the grid actually pretty much reads as you would expect it to. Well done on the two Saubers both getting into the top 10, we have to say. Obviously,
Well,
Zhao
yeah.
was his home race.
Yeah.
Well, that it reads pretty much. And then we had the start of the sprint where maybe a little bit of inexperience from Lando.
I think Lando just got a bit too much wheel spin.
No, I don't actually necessarily mean that bit. Yes, he did. He got too much wheel spin. But attempting to hang it out round the outside of Hamilton into turn one.
Yes, but Norris
Was
is
maybe.
Norris. Problem was Hamilton. Yeah, but Hamilton got a quicker start. There was only was it points
0.1 of us, 0.01 of a second, but that in them
reaction
terms is a
time.
lot. But the point I'm trying to make here is the first corner. We know that Merck's not fast. If Norris had have had the reason just to drop back and pull him behind him, I reckon he'd been in the lead by the end of the second lap.
Yeah.
As soon as DRS, he'd have been straight back past him. But and I get him, he's a racer. I'm not. I'd have probably done the same.
Well, yeah.
But he paid the price for it.
Well, we know we did.
You know, and it is what it is. But yeah, I just think maybe with hindsight, you look back at that and think maybe you should have just conceded that one at the time.
Hmm. Yeah, because
And then as we settled into a Mercedes running away, which is something we hadn't really said for quite a while, while Red Bull and Max in particular seem to be struggling with car setup. I think this is part of what we've said before about it only being one practice session,
yeah,
which engineers will hate me, but I quite enjoy when they go into the race not already knowing everything.
hmm.
I quite happily see only one practice session per weekend, full stop.
You don't see the practice sessions anyways.
Yeah, but I mean, do you not think that when the teams don't have hours of information in front of them, it tends to make for a better race as a spectator?
It made but the sprint race was a better one.
No, but I mean in general. We've got Miami coming up for another sprint, so we'll get another example. But like when we have weekends where the weather jumps all over the place,
Yeah.
when the teams don't have loads of lovely, perfect data that gives them exact outcomes,
Hmm.
we get better racing.
Yeah.
Because when they don't fully know, is when they start taking chances.
Yeah.
Chances that don't always work. But that's what I like to see. Because that's where you get the curveballs.
Oh yeah. Clearly didn't work for Alonso though, did it?
Well, no, to be fair, what happened to Alonso was Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
Which, did Alonso get blamed for that collision?
Yeah. Alonso got a 10-second time penalty for it.
No, I don't quite see how they've gone to that conclusion.
I don't fully understand it either, but
As far
Alonso
as I'm concerned, Sainz dive bombed him.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sainz, I'll come back to what I said to you earlier, which was the move between Sainz and Leclerc into the hairpin, and I loved when you had
Bang.
Nico. Yeah, they didn't touch that hard, but it was a proper frigging dive.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think you probably heard Leclerc after the race on radio.
Hmm.
Did you not hear that?
No.
I'm going to have to paraphrase slightly because it's too. It was on the lines of he seems to be fighting me more than everybody else at the moment.
Well, you happen to be in. The problem was.
And I'm sure I don't have to explain who he is in that context.
Yeah, I know, but the problem is Leclerc. The problem, I look for Leclerc is the fact that you're in his fucking way. Of course, he's gonna fight you.
Yeah, but I think he seemed, which he probably is, but Leclerc seemed to get the impression that
Carlos is out for him.
Yeah. Now, I would say, what's on Facebook was the brilliant line of, after that dive, when you've got Nico Rosberg on commentary saying you were a bit harsh on your teammate, then you may have been a bit harsh because insert the clip of them both crashing out at Barcelona here. You know what I mean? It was brilliant.
Well, you have Hamilton. I mean, he's one to talk though. Is Rosberg?
That's what I'm saying. Him and Hamilton had some like I say. I mean, it was Barcelona where they ended up crashing into each other.
Yeah, and
the top of the hill. And
the sprint could have that. If that hit had been any harder, that could have wiped them both out.
That's what I kind of said. I was talking to a family member, and I said, fair play, he went for it, but if both, and he's got it because he's playing for a drive. But if both cars had ended up in the wall off that, he wouldn't have looked like a hero.
No.
He'd look like a 24-carat twit.
Yep.
Obviously the collision with Alonso actually ended up putting Alonso out of the race because it popped his tyre.
Yeah,
and during a sprint he lost that much time with the pit stop, it wasn't worth risking.
No, but the problem is, Sainz is fourth in the driver's standings. He is going to be hunting Leclerc down.
Oh, I'll be honest, if I was Sainz, I would make it my mission to finish ahead of Leclerc every single race this season.
Yeah.
Just because that would be the ultimate two fingers at them as you walk out of Maranello.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You kept him, did you? Oh well, good luck.
Yeah, and this is...
So I don't... But this is... It was just...
It's a discussion I keep going back to. I still say they've kept the wrong driver.
I think I've heard far more people say that than agree with their decision. Like I said, I think their hand was somewhat forced because I think they'd already signed Leclerc a nice long contract.
Yeah.
I honestly think at the start of this season they expected to keep both drivers. I really do. And then the Hamilton thing came along. And for whatever reason in the background, something told them that made sense.
But the thing I don't understand is Hamilton always went, oh yeah, I'll save the rest of my days out at Mercedes. No, I'm not interested in moving to another team. Even when he was asked about the Ferrari rumour. The rumour was
he had also said in the past he was always interested in driving for Ferrari.
Yes, but at the time, before it came out, he wasn't interested. The first time he got approached by Ferrari, he wasn't interested. And then
you don't know what else is going on in the background.
No, but this is what Hamilton come out with and said himself.
Yeah, I'm not down with him. But what I'm going to find is you don't know. Let's be honest. I don't think it's going to bring Ferrari success. What it will do is sell a load of merch.
Yeah.
It'll sell merch. It'll sell tickets.
Oh yeah.
It already has sent Ferrari's share price through the roof.
And watch the Ferrari share price go when results don't happen.
Possibly, but the other thing that I wonder, I have no grounds for this other than my own thoughts. Has there been some push in Merck that maybe they're ready for a new driver in? They're never going to publicly say that because it would sound horrible, but they've got 2 or 3 young drivers in the background.
Yes, but
Have they sort of started making rumours that they're ready for somebody else in? And then Lewis, in the same way, let's be honest, this stinks of the exact same situation as when Fernando went to Aston Martin. And we all started saying, what the frick is he doing? It's an awful team. It's not as good as the car he's in. I said that. I will openly admit I said that.
you said that last
And we've all
season?
been proven season before now, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I was proven wrong. Look, I'm willing to stand up and admit when I get something wrong, and I did on that regard. This strikes me as having, but that was, I think, a lot of that was Alonso basically got told they wanted the 2 French drivers in the Alpine, and Aston Martin was the only job that came up.
Yeah.
I wonder if Hamilton, for Merck, have made clear that they're ready for a change.
Yes.
And he has, as a result, taken what was available.
But it's done a dirty on science. It really.
Oh, like I say, as I think I tried to start saying and then got diverted off. I think the beginning of the year, Ferrari expected to run both the same 2 drivers next year.
Yeah.
Leclerc signed a contract to, was it 27, 28? Something like that?
Oh no.
Then the Hamilton thing came along.
Yeah.
And they're like, shit, well, if we get rid of Leclerc, we're going to have to pay him out whatever the payout cause of his contract is. But Sainz hasn't signed his yet.
No.
So he can go for nothing.
Yeah.
Which one of those are you going to pick if those 2 are in front of you?
Personally,
Yeah.
you would have to go for science because the Leclerc would.
Because he's not going to cost you anything.
Exactly.
And I can imagine buyout clause F1 contracts, you'd be talking millions. You're not talking you're not talking like 2 months' wages.
Oh no, you.
You'll be talking millions.
Yeah.
I've said before, to me, Merck their best bet would be buying Lando out of his McLaren contract, but I bet that has a millions of pounds fee attached to it.
Yeah, they won't do that.
I still think it'd be their best option.
Yes, but there'd been rumours that Sainz was going to Merck as well, but there's been also rumours that Sainz is going to Audi.
Going to Aldi, what are you going to start stacking supermarket shelves?
Is going to Audi, and Nico Hulkenberg's been rumoured to be linked as well, but okay, I like Hulk, I do, but
Hulk's a good pair of safe, experienced hands.
Yes, but the problem is he's not really delivering.
No, he is though. He's a good pair of experienced hands.
I mean, K-Mag's just.
From what we know now, in it, Audi are taking over next year, but are still going to run supplied engines. Then in 2026, the Audi engines are meant to be coming in.
Yes.
How are you actually taking the Sauber team over next year?
Yeah.
Are going to be running, I'm guessing, the Ferrari engine that's in it now.
It will. Yeah. Audi take over Sauber next year. They'll run the engine out. They'll still run the Ferrari engine until 2026, until the new engine suppliers are allowed in, and then Audi will bring their own in.
Yeah.
Because they have to see it out, because they wouldn't be allowed to put an Audi, they weren't allowed to put their own engine in because it's still within the period before new engine suppliers come in.
Yeah.
Obviously, Aston Martin, as we've said, will be losing the Merc donkey and going to the Honda.
Yep. Red Bull are taking on Ford now. It's probably still going to be a lot of Red Bull powertrains involved.
Yeah.
But it's going to be Ford.
Yep. So, I don't know. I mean, okay, I I'd heard chatter that signs to Red Bull, signs to Merc, and now the latest one was Audi, which would
I don't know.
which would kind of make sense with his dad
Which is
and
what I've always said.
rallying.
His dad rallies for Audi.
Yeah.
Now, it's a difficult one.
But it's not.
If I was signed, honestly, I wouldn't be against taking a year out.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to. He's on form.
I know he doesn't want to, but trouble is, if he goes to Sauber, it's going to be a massive jump backwards.
But that's what we thought about Alonso and Aston Martin.
Yeah, but let's be honest. There's not. What are the chances of next year's Audi Sauber with the Ferrari in the back suddenly going from where it is to the front?
It's probably not gonna.
Once Audi take over, it's probably still going to be a couple of years.
Yeah.
Until they can get, if they manage to come out the block with a front-running car, I'd be suspecting foul play.
Mm.
I'm not going to lie.
So, yeah, let's go back to the sprint a little bit here.
I think we've got to start at the end of the sprint, haven't we? But
apart from the fact that, Danny Ricciardo outperformed Yuki, Guan Yu Zhou outperformed Bottas. I mean, he was just shy of a point, but he just he just couldn't catch Russell.
I think if it wasn't a sprint weekend, he would have got the point.
Yeah. But Alpine, it just makes me laugh at the fact that, like I say, Alonso was doing well until all that crap happened.
Hmm.
But I really don't rate Stroll anymore. I just don't.
I think we're going to Stroll a bit more during the race.
Yeah, I just don't rate him anymore.
I think this will be the third month in a row I've had a complaint of why you're strolling F1. I've told you. I'm thinking of making a jingle for it.
Hmm.
It needs to be something that's coming up every single bloody week at this point.
And then, so we go into the proper qualifying for the race.
Which is still the bit, if it was me, I still wouldn't have this. You'd start the race based on his finishing positions, but that's just me.
Well, that would have screwed. That would have screwed things right up. Really? Well, not really.
Possibly, but that's just me. But anyway, so yeah, we're going to actual qualifying.
Yeah. So really wasn't much to say apart from just Sargent being useless as fuck.
Yeah.
Yuki underperformed.
There is something to say, and it's just there above Yuki.
Well, the fact that Hamilton got knocked out in Q1.
Q1, yeah. Yeah, that's something to say, certainly.
Yeah, but that just seems weird. From where he finished at the sprint to qualifying.
Well, this comes down to what we were discussing a little bit earlier. In that they were allowed to make changes to the car between the sprint and the quali.
Yeah, and they screwed it up.
And whatever change Merck made was not in the right direction.
Yeah. You had Bottas on 10th. Guan Yu Zhou just didn't. He went downhill as well. Stroll, yet again, getting outperformed by Alonso, who stuck it in third.
And not just like by a couple of places. We're not just talking about outperformed by finishing by the place in front of him. We're talking about massively outperformed.
Well, Stroll in 11th, Fernando Alonso in third. You do the math.
Yeah. That's what I mean. When you say outperformed, it only really tells half the story. It's not just a little bit; it's by massive amounts.
Oh yeah, he got the floor wiped with him,
Yeah,
literally. But Fernando has the experience.
and he can actually drive.
Well, yeah, this is what I mean. Okay, fair play to the,
So sorry, Stroll fans, both of you, but
fair play to Leclerc and Sainz. Because, yeah, 6th and 7th, but I mean, okay, Leclerc outdid Sainz this time, but
Hulkenberg and Valtteri, Hulkenberg 9th and Valtteri 10th.
Yeah,
That's good going for those two.
That's what I mean. But that's like we say, the Haas is a qualifying car, just not good on race pace.
Yeah, it seems to struggle once it gets. It seems to do well in qualifying, struggle a bit more once it gets to a race.
I mean, Bottas would just drove the wheel nuts off that to get that in 10th. To get it into Q3 at least.
Maybe he took a little bit too much out of the engine.
Quite possibly. Fair play to both the McLarens, 4th and 5th. That McLaren's not slow.
The McLaren this year is a tidy car. The McLaren this year is a really good car.
I mean, it's doing well.
And he's probably got two of the best, probably the best overall combination of drivers, except maybe Max and Checo.
Yeah, but the problem is, I didn't rate Oscar. I didn't rate Oscar.
I'm still not a fan of the way he handled certain things. I will say that.
Yeah, but
I still think he's.
I'm
not saying it.
To be
honest,
honest,
it hasn't worked for him.
It's worked out.
I'm not going to
for him.
argue that it hasn't worked for him, but still.
Well, could you imagine where he'd be now if
Still with Alpine? Oh, yeah,
he was still with Alpine? I mean, okay, Alpine, Ocon
yeah, but
13th.
just because that doesn't mean the way he did things wasn't a little unprofessional. Is all I'll say. And
well, yeah, but at the end of the day, Alpine shouldn't have announced him. It was Alpine's fault for the way he replied. They shouldn't have announced him without asking him. Some of the replies wouldn't have been just down to Oscar. You've got to think who his manager is.
Oh yeah, I'm not.
Who's his manager?
Mark, isn't it?
Webber. And he's a fucking hothead at times. He'd have been spitting feathers at that. And he was a hothead. A bit like a certain German as well, who was a hothead that nearly punched David Coulthard.
Yeah, you saw about that shared in the group chat, eh? The people lining up to punch Stroll after the race. It'd be like a scene from Airplane when they're all going to thumper one.
And, yeah. Fair play to Sergio. Sergio's just been on it as well.
I think Sergio wants that, which I think we said this video, but I think he realises he needs to be at the moment.
Yeah, he needs...
Max, let's be honest, Max is in a different league right now. I'm not a big fan of it because, like I said, I'd like to see close racing, and that's coming from somebody who doesn't mind the Red Bulls. But the combination of Adrian Newey's car and Max is just dynamite.
Well, yeah, again, okay, Max started what? 4th? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4th for the sprint.
And they took a few laps because they were dealing with getting the car exactly dialed in how they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But once they got it dialed in, what did he pull? Was he like 12 seconds by the end of the sprint or something like that?
Something like that.
13.0 seconds in about 12 laps.
Yeah. 13.4.
13.043.
Yeah. But what I'm going to say is I nearly missed it because I wanted to move on to the race there, but I nearly missed it. Was it? Yeah, it was Perez. Was it the move with? Was it Perez where he just basically under? Was that the race or was that the sprint? I cannot remember. This is why I hate sprints at times and early morning races because there's so much goes on.
You're gonna have to give me more information. I might be able to help you.
Perez on both the Ferraris.
I can't remember the exact details of the overtakes, but I know they happened.
I think it was when the. Oh, that was. I think it was when the Ferraris banged wheels at the hairpin. Perez just scooted under the inside of them.
No, it was when it wasn't
Was it?
the Ferraris. It was when Alonso and Sainz got together.
Ah.
And yeah, Perez just went, "Thank you, coming through."
Yeah, but it was a bit ballsy on Perez though.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, but it was also like, was it Silverstone? I know we're going. Was it Silverstone where look was it Leclerc and somebody were battling and then Hamilton basically went. Hamilton just cut down under the inside.
Yeah, it's seizing an opportunity, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Luckily for them, it worked out.
Yeah, and basically, if Perez, but if Perez hadn't done that, but there was battles. Seemed to be battles everywhere within that sprint race. Because look at, Leclerc and Perez. And it was just like, yeah. But yeah, qualifying was just the usual.
Apart from Sainz winning it.
Apart from him being in it, but he still managed to get himself
well up the grid.
Yeah. Now. Oh. Okay. So
Go on.
I'm just going to read the note quickly. Alonso obviously got the other World Championship point because he got the fastest lap.
Did you get that in sprint?
No, in the race.
Oh, in the race. Yeah, he got the fastest.
Because we kind of done qualifying. Then
Yeah.
we went back to the sprint because I missed that bit and then going into race. Christ. This is why I hate sprints. It's going to be the same with Miami, guys. It's going to be the same with Miami. Trust
Yeah.
me.
Grab your popcorn, strap in. This is going to be a lot to cover.
So yeah, Alonso obviously got fastest lap, but obviously Sargent received a 10-second time penalty for a safety car infringement. Magnussen also received a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. Now the reason why, obviously I'm going to say it now, but the reason why Stroll's wasn't there, even though he received a penalty, because he served it.
He served it during the race, yeah. Because when you get those 10-second time penalties, it's always you either serve them at a pit stop, or if you don't, they add on to the end of your race time.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to say I'm going to start with Bottas. Really?
Go ahead.
Do I start with Bottas? Yeah. Bottas and his Sauber was a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, I believe it was an engine failure when he locked in gear, didn't it?
Yeah, locked it in gear. I will come on to my little bit of a rant soon about that. But, at the start of the race, I was expecting a big hit in either turn 1, turn 2, or turn 3.
I know what you mean.
Didn't happen.
No, the action came later.
Yeah. Because you've got to think, you know, I thought Perez would have fought Max off the start a bit more.
Only thing been given a bit of orders because a couple of cars looked a bit closer and just get yourself sorted before you start.
Yeah, but you've got to think. Alonso was Alonso on softs? Was he on softs?
No, I don't think it was soft. No, I don't think any. Wasn't the only person on softs was someone like Russell?
I mean, it was a bold move, but yeah.
Alonso, because what Alonso did was went to softs during the first safety car, but then the second safety car immediately afterwards kind of put a dampener on his plans a little bit.
So who did Magnussen?
Magnussen didn't hit anybody. His penalty was he for overtaking the safety car or something like that?
No, that was Sargent. Magnussen received a 10-second penalty for causing a collision.
Oh, did he not run into Yuki? Did he not put Yuki out?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he put Yuki out is what that one's referring to.
And obviously, Stroll put Ricciardo out.
Yep, in a very, very stupid way.
But Alonso didn't admit it, but he has sort of admitted it. But then not admitted it. That perhaps it was his fault that caused all that crap when he locked up.
You still. I'm afraid I don't overly buy that. To me, Stroll had opportunity to dive to the side and avoid it. Because I think, wasn't it Danny Rick said when you look at the onboard, he wasn't even looking at the car in front of him, he was looking into the corner.
Yeah, the problem was is that they were all a bit gung ho to get going. Is the way I look at it. They were, Max had already gone. Even though they can't overtake till they hit the start finish. Is it start finish or is it safety car line?
No, is it not? It's a safety car line, isn't it? I seem to remember.
Cannot remember. It's one of the lines. It's either the start finish straight, the start line, or the safety car line. But I always thought it was the start line, but never mind. But anyways, regardless of that, they were gung ho. Max had already pissed off. And obviously other people were hot on Max's heels. They were trying to get sort of going, and that's where I reckon the whole crap just went down. Yeah.
There was a bit of bunching, and unfortunately it led to Stroll having a very close look at the underside of Danny Rick's car.
Yeah. But this is why, this is yet again why...
Yet again, it's Stroll being involved in a blooming incident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like...
Yes, but, he's the sort of the only one that never gets his contract announced of how long he's got left. I never understand why. Everybody else, we know what length on their contract will be.
Because he probably doesn't even generally have an official end date to it because of who he is.
But I'm going to say it yet again. Stroll out. Drogovic in.
Yeah. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. It's just ridiculous that he keeps filling that seat when we're here every week talking about what the silly things he's done.
And he keeps doing.
Yeah.
it is beyond me how he manages to keep that seat. Yes, I know his dad owns the team.
But even his dad owns the team as a businessman, so even he's got to realise it's losing him money.
But the thing is, yes, Lawrence may have a say in what drivers he wants in the team, but then what's the point in having the team principal as well? What's the point in having Mike Crack?
I still can't hear that not laugh. I'm immature as hell, I know. But I still cannot. In fact, no, credit to him. He had the balls to run with it.
When?
Well, I think anybody else, given his card in life, would refer to themselves as Michael at any given opportunity.
Yeah.
Just to try and diffuse the joke. But fair play to him, he owns it.
But, you know what I mean? What's the point in having him if he doesn't get a decision in what drivers he wants?
I can't disagree with you. I can't argue with you on that one.
It baffles me why. I'm sorry, but for the shit that Stroll's done over not just this season, last season, and possibly season before. Even going back to Racing Point.
I mean, let's look. I mean, you look at his record. What's he had? He's had one pole position, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's had no wins or anything like that.
No.
In a car, and he's been in cars which have won with other drivers. I mean, Perez won with the Racing Point.
Holy crap. The recovery drive from last to first.
Yeah, I'm kind of glossing over the circumstances. Just that car won a race.
Yeah. He's
had race-winning cars. And he's never managed to turn them into anything
special. Yeah, he can't do what Fernando is doing right now.
No. Yes, experience plays a part, I'm not going to argue, but the guy's just not... Don't get me wrong, he would outdrive both of us.
Well,
I am not for 1 second.
Probably most of them would.
Well, exactly. But so would anybody with a motorsport license, because we haven't got them.
No.
That doesn't mean he's automatically F1 material.
No. And yes, we're probably upsetting Stroll fans here, but this is our opinion of Stroll. He doesn't deserve that F1 seat anymore.
Look, anybody who's listening who is a Stroll fan, feel free, engage with us in the comments. Discuss it with us. Be polite, please. We are trying to be as fair-minded as we can.
Yeah.
But if you've got a reason why you think he is deserving of that seat, talk to us.
Yeah.
I'm always interested to hear the other viewpoint. We might be missing something.
Okay, yeah, but there's only, his F2 career and everything like that, but that means nothing when you get up to F1.
Sadly not, because if F2 careers were to go by, Mick Schumacher would have done amazing, and, well, we saw that.
Unfortunately, that was half of that was Haas's mistake of bringing in 2 rookies. That did not work.
I also honestly believe that, unfortunately, his name wrote checks that he maybe wasn't quite to the level of catching. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to say is, yeah, if you're a Stroll fan and you have, please just engage with us. Talk to us. You might change our opinions.
Be nice.
Yeah. But like I say, we're trying to be civil. We always try to, we may not always succeed at that, but we do try and be civil.
Yeah. But it's like I said, it's like another driver is, unfortunately, I'm going to upset a couple of other fans here now. Logan Sargent. He's done. He's got to be done.
I could really upset you because I honestly don't see what Danny Rick's adding to the fray right now.
And do you want to know my honest opinion?
Go on.
Danny out of that car, Liam Lawson in, Danny back as a reserve.
Yeah. No, unfortunately.
That is, even as a Danny Rick fan, I'm sorry. Like I say, this is where it makes sense to me because I'm a Danny Rick fan. This is why I'm giving the opinion I'm giving right now, is that okay, Danny's had some good years.
No, they were Pirellis normally.
You know, go back to the Red Bull.
I couldn't resist that one. You set that one up far too nicely.
Red Bull, McLaren, you know, Renault, stuff like that. You know, there's been times where he's
had good times. But I am not saying his entire career has been nothing. I'm just saying the last couple of seasons.
Okay, you know, yes, he's had
have not shown.
He's had the accident.
Yeah, but all that did was prove what the car could do in Liam Lawson's hands.
Exactly.
It's like we said, you know, but we've in a time when rookies seem to find it harder and harder to get into F1. At the moment, there's a little bit of a closed club going on. We've had a couple of rookies who've come in and who have both shown really good stuff.
Ollie Behrman and Lawson.
As you say, you've got the likes of Drugovic. You've 2 or 3 in the background who, on paper, would make very good.
Yeah.
And they're not getting the opportunity. And unfortunately, I do feel that there are some seats being sat on by drivers who would do better now to move on.
Lance Stroll needs to move on. Danny Rick needs to go into a reserve role and let Lawson in. I mean, the only reason I think Danny Rick's been put in there is to push Yuki. That's what I'm thinking. Push Yuki into.
I think it'd be simpler than that. I just think it'd be financial. He'll have a good sponsor behind him. That's what we're doing it.
Well, probably.
The teams don't worry about one driver pushing another. They'll tell the driver to perform or you'll be out. But
the thing is, Yuki is performing. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Apart from, obviously, getting bitched, but there was not a lot he could do.
Yeah, you can't blame him for that retirement.
I'm not.
He got attacked.
I'm not, but that's what I mean. You know, it's...
By the way, did you see, was it at Japan when they were doing that interview? And he said something like, I turned around and saw a miniature version of my helmet, and Carlos Sainz went, were you just looking in a mirror?
Yeah.
Which was absolute genius.
But it's just... Yeah, there's just... It's like Bottas. I like Bottas, that's the problem.
Bottas can still perform. Give Bottas a car that's capable and he will put a good performance in.
Well, he has done. It was just a shame that...
the car let him down.
The car broke. You know,
and if he doesn't do that, he'll just get his hot pants back on, and none of us want to see that.
He'll get his speedos on, Jesus Christ. The Uber advert. Oh, dear.
Nice, yeah, that was something else. Still a better actor than Vettel, though.
Was it a video of Max?
I posted it. It was an advert for like 0% beer or something.
Yeah.
With Verstappen. Yeah, I think I posted it in our chat, didn't I?
Yeah. Well, okay, Albon. I'm gonna say I want to say it's the car.
It is. Albon can perform. Albon didn't do well in Red Bull. And when he left Red Bull, I thought him coming back was going to be a mistake. And once again, he's actually proven that he can perform given the right chance.
Okay, he's had a couple of screws. He's had a couple of screw ups. I mean,
but the trouble is, he's probably having to push that bloody Williams that hard.
That's the problem. He's pushing it to the limit.
That's probably half the problem. He's having to drive that car so hard to get what he gets out of it.
Yeah.
That's what's causing the issues and the problems. And,
like I say, I don't know who you would put in the Williams. Get rid of Sargent. I don't know who you'd put alongside him.
This is where I don't know enough about like who's in F2 and that. I don't follow F2 closely enough to really know who's around, so I'm not as good to comment.
And that was the problem with China as well. This is one thing with the entire race. There was no support races. I thought there was, but there actually isn't. There was none. The next support race is Miami. So there was no extra grip going down on the track.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
And yes, next, like I said, the next F2 race and all the other stuff is Miami. But see, I'm probably going to annoy a few Nico Hulkenberg fans and K-Mag fans here. Haas are kind of stuck.
As we said, they've got a good car for
qualifying.
Yeah, and it's not a great race car.
But their seats aren't safe at the end of the year. Who the hell are Haas going to bring in? Because Haas don't compete in the F2. Haas haven't got any backing within Formula 2.
I would imagine it will be somebody from within the Ferrari program. Could be Behrman.
It'd be such a bloody shame.
I'm not saying it wouldn't, but I'm saying at that point, you would go into the fact that they are Ferrari engined.
Oh, well, yeah.
It would make sense for them to take a Ferrari reserve driver, a Ferrari supported driver.
So basically stick Antonio Giovinazzi in the Haas and Ollie Behrman and watch who wins out of that one.
Well, at least you have the best hair in F1 back on the grid. Although I don't know, actually, yeah, but Bottas's mullet might run a close second to that.
That's what I mean.
But, you know, like I say, you guys in the comments, and I know you in particular, follow F2 and F3 a lot more than I do, so you have a better idea whose names are out there.
F2, F3, and...
You got like the Japanese
F1
Super
Academy.
Series, what it's called, yeah.
They're the only three I follow. I don't really follow the...
And then again, I don't want to make, because this could be a whole topic in itself, but we've seen to go from F1 to IndyCar.
Yeah, but
Is the scope to come the other way?
I don't know, because Teo Porcher was an F2 driver. He's now in IndyCar.
You know what I mean, though?
McLaren.
Yeah. You know, there will be scope maybe for an IndyCar driver to come and try their hand at F1.
Yeah, but
we've had a few go the other way.
Yeah, Grosjean.
Sato.
Ericsson.
I'm thinking back to when I watched the Indy 500. Was Pedro de la Rosa not in it as well? I seem to remember.
Don't know. I missed the IndyCar the other night, unfortunately, so I couldn't tell you.
No, I said, the only one I can think of is last year's Indy 500.
Yeah, no, I was meant to watch IndyCar the other night and I missed that, but yeah, that's a whole different thing. So yeah, there will be...
Entry list as a quick... Alex Rossi, was he not a...
No.
Marcus Ericsson, Takuma Sato...
Yeah.
Grosjean...
Yeah.
We've got Callum Ilott was certainly Formula 3.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, I recognise the Scott McLaughlin name from Australian Supercars.
Yeah. Well, hang on, wasn't Ilott F2?
Was he F2, F3? I think he was a driver in one of the games a couple of years ago.
I think he was F2. Because
I think Will Power was like F3 as well, wasn't he? F3, F2.
Probably not. He sounds more... I think he's in... I can't remember if he was NASCAR. But...
Formula Renault he ended up in at one point.
All right.
He was
Okay.
a test drive. He was a test driver for Minardi back in 2004.
All right. Well, okay, a long time ago then. But
He's actually older than I thought.
no, Ilott was F2.
He was British Formula 3 for a couple of years. That's probably where I've heard the name.
Mm,
Because I think at the time British F3 supported the British touring cars.
yeah. But you know,
Ilott was F2. I knew I recognised that name.
yeah, he was F2. But what's the? I don't know if it'd work because the IndyCar's like a completely different power set.
Yeah, but people have managed to go through. I'm not saying it would. I'm just saying that's where some other.
You know, do something radical. Let a woman get on the grid.
Yeah, I've never been against that. The problem is, my issue with that is the person who dominated the W Series for.
Yeah,
The entire time it was open, then struggled in lower formulas.
Yes, but it was also funding as well. The funding was the issue between between the lower Formula Series as well. That was the thing. That's why she's gone to IndyCar. Well, she's actually gone to the NXT series of IndyCar. Because I don't blame her to get the money that she'd need and then launch a bloody F3 return.
Hmm.
You know, it's like when Albon stepped away. Where did he go? DTM.
DTM, wasn't it?
And absolutely,
a lot of ex-F1 drivers end up in DTM.
You know, and quite hammered DTM, and then returned to Formula One.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many ex-F1 drivers ended up in DTM.
Yeah, I don't know where Kimmy's gone.
He did a bit of NASCAR last year. Genuinely.
Yeah, I know he did. But we're going way off topic here now.
Would we?
And we.
I think the only thing we've got left to talk about, the race, Norris got driver of the day, which I don't think was undeserved. He put on a fairly good showing.
Well, yeah.
Fastest lap went to Fernando. Obviously, Red Bulls walked away with it.
Max walked away with it. Perez didn't know. Yeah, but that's the thing. Perez yet again. Just, he seemed to... He's... From where he started to where he finished.
He technically lost a place.
Yeah.
Like I think one or two got... Because would I be right saying this was the first time we'd seen the safety car this year? I don't think we've had a safety car in the first 4 races, have we?
No. This is the first time we've seen it twice.
Double showing. I think that, like I said, I'm pretty sure Alonso had a pretty dynamite strategy at the first safety car, which then got well and truly screwed by the second one.
Yeah, why did they bring that second safety car up?
Because Yuki's car ends up stopped on track. And this is what I think you were going to say. We've actually skipped over this. They were very slow showing that VSC when Bottas' car was stopped on track.
Slow? Slow? I could have walked faster. Then them decisions were being made.
To me, that VSC, because that car was straight on the firing line on the outside of a corner.
Yeah. But why was there only a single yellow being thrown? There was no double yellow being thrown. Not even when marshals were on track. There was no double yellows. Even from the shot they were showing, all you could see was single yellows. And at that point, it was like, oh, right, okay. That's why they then had to bring the virtual out.
And then they upgraded to a full safety car once the 1930s tractor had to come out on the circuit.
Yeah. Why didn't it just... The problem was, if they knew that car... Cause surely they can see the telemetry data.
Yeah, but if the car dies, does the telemetry die the second the car does?
No, because they still know where the car is.
Yeah, but they might not know it's like stuck in gear. They might have thought it was going to be able to be wheeled out of the way.
But clearly not.
Well, clearly not. But no, I think we're going to be on the same page on the rarity for this one because I think that decision was way too slow.
I mean, I know you've said to me once before, okay, yeah, there was no need for a red flag to be chucked. If anybody says they should have red flagged it, no. There was no need for a red flag to be chucked there because...
For me, I'd have gone straight to safety car. The second that car, especially when you saw that shot of Bottas standing out of the car.
Yeah.
I'd have been straight on the safety car at that point because you've got people on. And like I say, I always got it was in the firing line. It was on the outside of a corner. Anybody locked up into there, they were straight up the back of it.
Yeah. But
it wasn't like he'd managed to tuck it round a corner.
No. And this was the thing I don't understand. I mean, if anybody from the actual proper Formula 1 team listens to this, which I highly doubt, but hey ho, that'd be a shock if you did. Crofty. Comment your decision because I'd be interested in that. But personally, there was no need for this, because it was only yellow flags. Then they said it was supposedly double yellows, but there wasn't any double yellows that you could see even on camera shots.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It should have been, right, that car stopped. He's out on track.
Safety car.
Marshals have got to intervene because you could see him messing with the car. It should have been full-blown safety car. Neutralise it all.
The big difference is if you go VSC, it neutralises it, but if you go safety car, you end up with all the cars in one snake, so you know exactly where they are on the circuit.
Yeah.
So you then get time when you know there isn't a car anywhere near that area.
Yeah.
That's the advantage. That's the big advantage of the safety car. That's why I would have gone for that, because at least then you know that.
Yet again, now, you've always criticised me when I've always criticised a race director, but that was piss poor decision.
No, I've always taken the pee out of you a little bit, but there's times when they do need to hold into account. That was badly done.
I mean, how long did it take them to get that safety car out?
So 5 laps. It took them probably over 2 laps to get the VSC out. Which to me, well, like I say, personally, I would have gone straight to full safety car, but that's just
It should have been full safety car. I would have, if it had been me in that position, it'd have been right. He's out of the car. He's messing with the car.
Almost to me, as soon as that car was stopped and he realised it wasn't going to get moved by itself, I'd have gone full safety car. Like, it was in too much of a dangerous position. Like I said, if it had been tucked around a corner, if it had got it halfway up an escape road, yeah, maybe you can get away with VSC or double waved. But no, it was literally straight on from the track.
Yeah.
So at that point, to me, it's that simple. You neutralise the race, you get all the cars where you know where they are, then you can get it dealt with.
Yeah, and it was a bit like, like I said, it was just very, very piss poor.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you on that one.
Decision over it. Was it Yuki's car or was it Debris on track that caused that second?
I thought it was, well, there may have been Debris, I didn't hear that. I generally thought it was because Yuki's car ended up stopped.
But they'd said it was Debris.
Maybe it was, I didn't hear that, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I wasn't so sure on that. But what really just felt another piss poor decision yet again was why did they send the safety car around? as many laps as they did. The second safety car seemed to go around
Go on for longer than it needed to.
ages. Yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying there because I can't disagree with you.
I couldn't understand it. Was it nearly 5 laps? 4 or 5 laps?
A lot more than it needed to be.
Yeah. I just didn't. But you couldn't. The problem was the cameras were focused on the safety car, so you didn't know what the hell was going on. It was just causing so much confusion. Yes, there was a safety car. Why? Where's the cameras to say, oh, well, there's a car stopped here, or there's debris here, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
There was no live feed shot. You know, it's like Max turned around, you know, somebody said to Max, oh, there's debris on track, and he goes, yeah, well, if you count the marbles or something like that.
Even the driver side to wonder why this was going the way it was.
Yeah. It went on for just way too long, and I think then just killed the rest. It just killed it for me. Killed the rest of the race after that second safety car. I didn't enjoy China as much as the race side of it as I thought I was going to. You know, China hadn't been on the grid for a lot.
And it's a circuit as a circuit I generally really enjoy.
Yeah.
And it in general was a good weekend. I mean, especially the sprint.
The
As I
sprint,
think we said before, the sprint was better than the race.
the sprint race was more entertaining than the actual race. Is what I feel.
No, I'd be inclined to agree.
I mean, okay, you know, fair play to Red Bull, fair play to Lando, fair play to Perez on game, fair play to the Ferrari boys for 4th and 5th. Yeah, it may not have been what they wanted, but you know, shame for Alonso, even though, you know, the strategy that he was gonna have didn't quite work.
Especially by now, he had bad luck during the sprint, really.
Yeah. Fair play to George for, you know, getting where he was. Could say fair play to Hamilton, if I'm honest, because, I mean, from where he started to where he ended up. But, no. Alex Albon. I'd love to just contact him I'd love to find a way to contact Albon and say, look, how much do you want for your helmet? How much do you want for your race helmet? Because
it was good.
That
onboard view of it every bloody time was hilarious.
Yeah. And was he the only one that had? I think was he the only one that had a custom helmet for that race?
I think so. I mean, what was it? Towards the end of last year, it seemed to have a different helmet every blooming race for some of them, but...
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of not fair, 'cause even looking on the... they haven't got it on the bloody F1 Authentic site either. Which is really annoying. But we have...
One last thing that I think you're putting off looking at the moment.
I am, not gonna lie. I am. Oh dear. So this is our, obviously, as you guys know, podcast presenters versus listeners. You can still join in if you wish. The link for it is at the top of Spotify. I should have plugged that earlier. Now, not...
Go on.
Okay, you used your limitless chip.
I did.
Sneaky shit. Sneaky. No wonder you had a good result there.
Yeah, well, the best thing is Alan beat you.
I know Alan beat me, which... Alan used his no negative chip, that's why.
But he also lost 20 points from additional transfers.
Oh, he did. So who did he switch?
Without looking...
Quick look back at his team that he took. So we had Norris, right. So this was a...
Anyway, you look at the last race, I'll look
Right.
at China and we'll see what's different.
So this was a Japanese Grand Prix, yeah?
Yeah,
Lando,
correct.
Russell,
Correct.
Gasly,
Wrong, Alonso.
Danny Rick,
Wrong, Yuki.
and Yuki.
K-Mag. So he swapped. So he gained K-Mag and Alonso. K-Mag and Alonso gained. Lost Danny Rick and who was the third one you said?
There was Norris, Russell, Gasly.
Yeah. So he lost Gasly and Ricciardo, gained Alonso and Magnussen.
Right? He
Aston Martin and Haas for his two cars.
right, so did he had RB and McLaren, so did he get points deduction off that as well?
Well, he lost 20 points for two transfers above his allowed.
So
So he made 4 changes, so he got penalised for 2 of them.
yeah. Now I had shite because of Danny Rick, and obviously I
And
had
RB.
4 for the RBs.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ryan didn't have a good one either, really.
Ryan's teammate, I think you need to have a look at. You have a lot of money spare.
You've got 2.1 million spare there, Ryan. You could think about making changes.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm
actually pretty set, even when mine reverts back to what it should be. I think I've got a pretty strong
'cause
lineup.
who've you actually got? Let me check.
My normal is Verstappen, Oscar,
Max.
Sainz, Albon, and Ricciardo.
Yeah, you have Max Albon. Yeah, but Danny would lose you points. You have Guan Yu Zhou, don't you?
No, I believe I changed that.
You have Max. According to the last race, you had Max, Albon, Piastri, Ricciardo, Guan Yu Zhou, Ferrari, Williams. Yeah?
I thought I was looking at the wrong one. Yeah. Now, the last race I didn't do well because I had quite a few negatives. I had fucking 4 negatives.
Yeah.
But I bounced it back well for China, I do believe.
You did, you sneaky little bastard.
Nearly 200 points clear of second place. I am now, if you take all races, not far off 400 points clear.
I know you
Meanwhile,
are.
you and Alan are very close.
I know I am.
There's not a lot there now. He'll be getting DRS off you before too long.
Yeah, but it's really annoying.
We know he is, but we still put up with him.
No, but it's annoying that the fact that, you know, he's been quite sneaky, but he's lost himself points. He would have been a lot closer to me.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, though, it was because of, like, the sprint weekend. And you getting Red Bull and the 2 Red Bull drivers in for a sprint weekend was only going to profit.
But guess what?
Go on.
You can't use that chip again.
I know I can't. It's all right. I don't mind. Because he's done me quite proud there.
And what's next? A sprint.
Yeah, well, if you want to try yourself and see what you can do, crack on, mate.
I'm not. No.
Don't forget, I've not done anything that's not available to you as well.
I know. I already know this. But I'm trying to bide my time because I don't want to just like what Alan seems to have done. He's used a lot of his chips already. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I don't know how many chips you've used.
And
Right.
playing that card close to my chest.
And that's what I mean. I don't know how many chips you've used. I can't even remember how many chips I've used. And you know, and it's just like what do I do? You know.
What you do is you keep on at it and see where you end up.
Yeah, I know. But you know, I don't want Alan to beat me. That's for certain. You know.
Because you'd rather I didn't as well, given the choice.
I kind of don't want you to beat me either, but there's...
It's early days yet, mate. There's a lot of laps to cover.
Yeah, but the problem is, I think that's what happened. Yeah, but that's what happened last time. I managed to pull out a lead, and then there was no...
There's a lot of laps to cover yet. I am in no way I have not opened the champagne yet. I might have stuck some on ice, but I'm a long way off opening it.
But with, you know, we'll see. We'll have to see how things play out, because...
Oh, certainly.
The problem is this year, this has become a little bit more difficult.
Which I'm not disagreeing with. I said last season I felt it was too easy.
Yes, but has it become a little bit... I'm not complaining already, but has it become a little bit too difficult?
As the person currently sat out in front, I'm going to say no.
But I knew you would say that. And... I mean... I can kind of... Because we don't actually know how many points in total you could get from it.
No, if you got the absolute perfect lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get that because I had Oscar, not Lando. I'd have got more points with Lando, but I obviously didn't know that at the time. So yeah, there's definitely more points on the table.
And that's the problem. I had Oscar
But-
as well.
But we'll find that out when we get there.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be definitely making changes. I know that. I mean, I have 11 days, but I can make changes to my team. Because
Yeah.
the team lock-in deadline is 11 days, 18 hours and 32 minutes as the time of this recording.
It's a rather long recording.
Oh, yes, tell me about it. So, yeah, so it's going to be Miami. This, obviously, as you know, this episode will be out Wednesday, 3 o'clock. Then, obviously, for Miami, it is another sprint. Is it a sprint? Yes, it's a sprint.
Miami's another spin, yes, it is.
Which isn't going to be too bad, guys, because at least we're not going to sound, well, it's not that we sound it now, but we're not going to be as tired.
Yeah, because at least it's a slightly more reasonable time for our particular piece of the world.
Yeah, 9 o'clock at night for qualifying and stuff, and the race.
Yeah, so a little... Now, we understand there's parts of the world that have to endure the early, so you're not complaining. But, yeah, it's nice when it comes back to us a little bit.
Yeah, it is, because it makes it easier for us to possibly understand, and probably just we maybe note take next time. But is there anything you want to add before we finish?
I don't think so, just... You know, like I said, we had a slightly changed sprint format, and that, honestly, that race gave me the thought. The sprints, to me, as we said, were better than the race.
Yeah.
Now, going forward to the future, could you see a situation where Maybe you do 2 sprints in a weekend rather than a full-length race?
You mean a sprint and a feature, like the F2 do?
Yeah, but make it so the feature is closer to a sprint than a... Imagine if this weekend we'd have had 2 sprints rather than 2 a sprint and a full race. Just 2 20 laps. Because you get a bit less of the strategy with such a short race.
Yeah. Well,
And I almost think you could almost tidy up a little bit. 2 practice sessions on Friday. Saturday, no, you'd probably have to go 1 practice, sprint, quali, race. Sunday, job done. I know I'm going to be unpopular when I suggest less racing. I realise that.
yeah, don't put races on Saturday night, asshole. Don't put races on Saturday.
But
Because
you
you
didn't trust your streaming schedule.
No, because the races are on Sunday.
Yeah, but we had a sprint race on Saturday this time.
I didn't do anything on Saturday.
No, I'm saying we have at the moment we have sprint races on Saturday.
Yeah, but I'm on about, like, Ramadan and all that lot. You won't, Well, yeah.
Well, maybe have 2 races on a Sunday then. One Sunday morning, one Sunday afternoon, but obviously they couldn't be the full length.
I have no idea, but anything else?
Something for the comment section to argue over. No, that's everything. You got any closing thoughts?
Like I say, the race wasn't the best. Sprint was better, and let's see what Miami brings next.
Oh yeah.
Because things might get interesting.
We can but hope.
So obviously, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening on YouTube. If you listen on obviously Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. If you do want to join the Podcast versus Listeners League for the F1 Fantasy thing that's
All
going
details
on,
will be...
they'll be up above.
Yeah.
So, we shall see you for the next one. So until then.
Good night, everyone.
Goodbye for now.